Hey guys, we've got a fun guest for you this week. We went outside of the movement family and searched out a really top quality author. It's been out there. I think we describe him as a serial author in the conversation because he's 6 books out, 3 more coming, and I think we gave him an idea for a 10th as we were talking.
I'm really excited about him. It's also fun because he's British. It's just fun, It just everything's a little different. It's very similar, but it's a little different. I think you're really going to enjoy Chris, and yeah, I think you'll appreciate his intellect, but most importantly, how all of this relates to you and your world. So, yeah, very fired up about this interview.
I love that. I want to give a special shout out to Sean McConnell out in Virginia Beach for introducing us and for making this even possible. So thanks,
Thank you,
Sean.
Sean.
Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Hey guys, super excited to be back again with you this week with another phenomenal guest. I just got introduced to Chris Fenning the other day. He's a phenomenal guy, has an incredible story, and is a published author. Refresh my memory, Chris. Is it 6 published books with one more in the works right now?
It is six, yep, and three in the works, but one of them is certainly closer than the others.
You are so ambitious. Oh my goodness.
What is it? A serial novelist? Serial wouldn't be a novelist.
Author?
Serial writer, author.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So of the 6 books, let's just start with what is your favorite book? I know today we're going to speak to communication and stuff, but out of all the books you've written plus the 3 in the works, what's your favorite right now?
My the one I'm most known for is the first minute because it's the thing that comes first in our workplace communication. So whenever we're talking to our colleagues, how do we get their attention, make sure they're focused, they understand what we're going to talk about? You can do all of that in the first 15 to 20 seconds, but that's not a lot for a book. So padded it out to a whole minute. And then the thing that I'm most excited about is the book that I'm writing right now about helping experts talk to non-experts, specialists talk to non-specialists,
Mm,
and bridging that gap
great
between
topic.
it, isn't it? And it's one of the things that continually surprises me is people don't self-identify as experts, but many people will identify as a specialist.
Hmm.
And that is by itself an example of the words we use, getting people to sort of put their hand up and opt in to what we do or opt out. And the
Good,
words and the
good.
way that we use them can make such a difference.
Andy, I feel like that first minute is so much more powerful for Chris with his British accent than it is for us. I just feel like we're at a disadvantage here.
We
Yeah,
definitely have to learn how to enunciate a little better on that in a special way. Yeah.
yeah.
I
Dude,
can get away. I'm pretty sure some of my prior promotions when I was employed were down just to the accent.
no doubt. No doubt.
I
Absolutely,
love it.
man. Well,
So,
so excited about this topic.
yeah, before we jump into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, right? Tell us a little bit about your journey, because obviously with the accent, that's not, a native Texan accent. So tell us a little bit about your journey kind of coming to us.
Yeah, it's my deep south upbringing, but the deep south of England instead of
Like
the deep south
like
over
Bristol.
here. Actually, I did live in Bristol a couple of times. So,
Amazing.
as you can tell, I'm not from around here in the States, although I do currently live on the east coast of the US. And originally from England, moved here with my British wife in 2012, and it was her career that brought us here.
Mm,
And so I've followed her around for the past 20 something years, and it's the thing that's really been consistent through that is I can change what my career has been. I started off as a satellite design engineer, an aerospace engineer, working in defense, and I ended up running mergers and acquisitions for one of the biggest companies in the US. In between times, there was an internet company, a travel company, and the thread through all of that was my ability to bridge that technical, non-technical divide, to be able to speak one expert language and translate it into something that others could understand. And that served me wherever I've been in the world and whatever career I've been in. And then 6 years ago, I took the leap from the corporate world into what I do now, which is helping experts explain complicated things, but without dumbing it down.
wow, man. That's brilliant. I don't know how long that took, but it didn't take long and it was incredibly succinct. Like, well played.
Thank you. Yeah, if I get that wrong, it's a bad setup for the
Pretty
rest of
much.
our
Like,
conversation.
not so sure 25 minutes later, he's the subject matter expert on that. That was fantastic. Man,
Yeah.
cannot wait. So, Andy, tee us up. Where are
Yeah,
we headed?
so kind of coming from there, right? With that history, obviously it's understandable how you've kind of shaped your communication pattern, so or style or the language you're using to be able to communicate pretty technical things, aerospace engineering, into pretty simplistic terms. For our group with loan officers or for, in that realm of things, what are some of the techniques that they can use or ways that they can help take some of those more technical pieces about guidelines, products, or whatnot, and bring it into simplistic terms for the average homeowner or realtor to understand?
Yeah. So there's three things that all of us need to keep in mind. And it a loan officer is an expert. They know so much about complex products, complex methods that the ordinary person on the street, the buyer, doesn't know and understand. So there is a big expertise gap. So for the loan officer listening to this and thinking, well, I don't work in deep tech. How is this relevant? The words that you use, the way that you make things relatable and relevant to the person you're talking to, and then the stories that you tell are the three things that will make the biggest difference in connecting with clients and avoiding those moments where the client says, or where the buyer says, hang on, I just need to think about it. Now you get that sticker shock look, or they go away and disappear into the ether. Those are the kind of problems that can be avoided by checking we're using the right words, focusing on the relevance, and having some very simple stories to help connect the detail with what the buyer is trying to achieve.
Mm.
Yeah, I love that. So let's go a little deeper on each one of those, right? When we start talking about the words we use, are there specific phrases, specific ways that you would position the words that you're using, or how would you kind of break into that even deeper?
Yeah, so I do this with people in all industries. I've done this with a bunch of bankers and software engineers at JP Morgan, and I did it a couple of weeks ago with a pest control company, and the process is the same. And it starts by saying, looking at the words that we use. So in our own roles, we have expert language. It's commonly called jargon. I'm a big fan of jargon. It's got a bad rep, but jargon, Andy, it makes you do your job better and more easily. You can use one word with a colleague where you'd have to use 20 words to get the same thing across in a way that I understand. So expert language is fantastic if and only if you're talking to other people who know that language.
Mm.
When you're talking to a buyer, you have to translate stuff. Even simple things like cash to close. Now, I know all of those words. I know what cash means, I know what to means, and I know what close means. But put them together, do I, as the buyer, really know what that means? Or would it be better to say, on the day you buy the house, you're going to have to bring a bunch of money. It's more than the deposit. More words, better understanding. And it's
Chris,
identifying those things.
I have to tell you, man, I was on a call yesterday with one of our top producers, and she had this client that was unhappy with a HELOC, with a home equity line of credit. Just because of the timing of what had happened, she was going to invest in something, and then the investment opportunity went away, and she didn't think she was going to close if she didn't want to, right? She didn't if she didn't have it. And so she said, "Well, I told you repeatedly," and she showed her the emails about we're going to close on this particular date. And this is a Southern woman, and she said, well, I don't know what close means, but I know what good to go means. If you told me I was good to go, I'd known where I was. So internally, I'm laughing at that, but you just validated the point.
Yeah,
What does
one
close mean?
one word that makes total sense. And as a foreigner, we have different language. We use different words, different terminology. So perhaps regionally there's different words. Our own understanding is so far away from that of the buyer. So
Mm,
us as the loan officers, I put myself in the loan officer shoes, we just use the words every day around the office on the paperwork. It's the
you
lingo
bet.
that makes our job easier. And people don't know. Debt to income, escrow. We're going to put the money in escrow. Whoa, what is that? Who's
Mm,
getting that? But
right.
that and it gets thrown out just casually because it's a common thing. And what it does for the buyer is it does a couple of things. First of all, is it takes them out of the conversation. If
Mm,
you were talking to me about my loan, you said, "Oh, we're going to put the money for closing into escrow, and it goes here." I'm processing what is escrow, and I'm not paying attention to the next things that you say. And in addition to that, so that's the first problem is I sort of check out of the conversation unintentionally while I'm trying to
hmm
work out what that word means from context. The second thing is my confidence in understanding what's happening goes down.
Yeah.
And anytime we're dealing with money, if the confidence goes down, it feels like the risk goes up. And that, whoa, I just will slow down. I'm just not ready. I don't feel comfortable. I'm not. And all of those things become barriers to moving ahead. They become barriers to trust with your loan officer. Um, all from just a few words.
So good, man. Obviously we want everybody to buy your book, and I will be first on that list, by the way. Can't wait to read it. And I'm sure you have lots of suggestions and different ideas to help people to begin to consider these things. But Andy, I'm just wondering because as he and I are both starting to really embrace artificial intelligence, as others are, of course. But an interesting prompt might be like record this call. Most of us are doing that now in our Teams call and our Zoom calls if we're doing that kind of thing. Record this call, dump it into your AI agent of choice, and say, summarize this for me through the ears of an eighth grader and simplify words that could be misunderstood. I think that might be an interesting exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good thing to do. I'm going to make two slight tweaks to the prompt.
Please.
So the first is identify industry specific language that the
Mm,
client might not understand.
yep.
Because jargon is a very vague term, but industry specific is something that the AI tools pick up on.
Mm.
And the second thing is I would change eighth grader to grandparent. And there's a couple of reasons for
Nice.
that.
Is there a difference?
There is, there is.
I'm asking this as a grandparent. Yeah, okay. Go
Okay,
ahead.
okay. Well, then I think you might like the answer here.
Yeah,
But the often misquoted thing is from Einstein, where apparently Einstein said if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, then you don't understand it yourself.
sure.
The original quote is if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it yourself. And
Interesting.
here's why thinking about a 6-year-old is a problem. There are two reasons. The first is a 6-year-old has no life experience to draw on, whereas your
Mm,
grandparents have a lifetime of analogies and comparisons and things that you can then make connection with in their life.
sure.
And the second thing is we tend to talk down to 6-year-olds, but we talk to our grandparents with respect.
Love that. Great distinction.
Really is a great distinction. Yeah, so to that point, right? The words you use matter.
They really do. They really do. But it doesn't make any difference if you use all the right words if we don't do that second thing, which is
Yeah.
making it relevant to the
Mm,
person that we're talking to. And relevance is the thing that is most often missed, unintentionally, but most often missed. And people end up not realizing why something is important or not thinking that it's for them. And it's all because we haven't made relevance clear. And it's actually quite simple to do.
do tell.
I was wondering if you wanted to take that in a particular direction. So I'm
No,
gonna give you an
I
example.
just love the idea of relevance. I mean, I think Andy and I, from kind of a sales training perspective, we would probably go to ask more questions, find out where their pain is, what's their issue, what's their situation, so that we can help to provide a solution. But that may or may not be the path that you would take us down.
Yeah, that is a great way to discover how you can connect your message to something they care about. But
Mm.
here's what relevance is like in its simplest form. Imagine you got a letter in the mail from the water company and it said, "Hey, we are investing in your area. We're investing $500 million. We're upgrading infrastructure. We're putting in new pipes, new pumping stations. We've got 10 teams out working over the next 6 months. How much do you care about that letter?"
Not so much.
Not a
Yeah.
lot.
Maybe it goes in the trash or recycling. Maybe it goes in the cat litter tray. Imagine you got a letter that did this instead from the water company, and it said, "Your water's going to be off next week from on Tuesday from 1 till 4 p.m." How much do you care about the letter now?
A
Paying close
lot.
attention, yeah.
Yeah.
How much further down the letter do you read now?
Mm.
All the way. Or at
All
least
the
Sure.
until my
way.
questions are answered, right?
Exactly. Well, why? What's happening? Well, we're upgrading the infrastructure. Well, what's happening? We've got 500 million. All the detail, detail, detail.
So good,
The
man.
problem we have, and I've sat through this. I've gone through a bunch of mortgage things. I've had some very good experiences and some very not good experiences. And it's not just with mortgages. It's buying anything that's even slightly complex.
Hmm.
People do that first letter first. It's all the detail. It's the why, the
Sure.
how it works, what's inside the mechanism, 17 different options, and then the punchline. How does it impact me
That's
and the
so
things I
good.
care about? And there's a mistaken belief, and I've seen this. I do a lot of work in with financial advisors, financial
Mm,
planners in the wealth industry, and they have the same problem. And I've seen this with loan officers as well. They think it's all about the money.
yeah.
And often it is, but not always. And that isn't the emotional driver for a lot of people.
Mm,
So relevance might be, I need this to happen quickly. Speed is the outcome I care about most in this. Or risk. That might be my biggest driver. I want the lowest risk.
hmm
I want I don't want any surprises at any point through my whole mortgage journey, through the buying process, through holding it. I just don't want any surprises. And if that's the case, if the loan officer is only focusing on, I've got you this percentage, or we've managed to lower the fees at this point, they're not making their information relevant to the
mm,
end user. And in the example you gave earlier about the lady who said, I don't know what close is, if those conversations had started with questions about what is most important to you, is it the date that the deal is done? Then that may have got around that
yeah.
close, good to go issue.
Right,
So
right.
focusing on relevance is so important.
Part of what I hear when you're talking about that too is having a little bit of an understanding or a knowledge or deep enough rapport with your buyer or with the person that you're working with to really understand what their motives are. And from our perspective, we utilize DISC as a behavioral assessment. So we work that internally so we can understand kind of the four primary styles, and then we coach on how to utilize that in a sales atmosphere so that you
Mm,
can discover where somebody's style is. Because if somebody is risk adverse or a high S, then if you can predict that ahead of time, it helps you shape the message. Same thing with the other four styles. I'm curious, do you have a similar, or how do you like to find out or probe or discover where somebody's kind of pressure points are?
Yeah, and it's asking questions. So whatever profiling you use, there's DISC, there's Insights profile. There's a few others out there that do different things. But there's a fundamental layer underneath all of those, which is if you're having that client discussion, you can ask some pretty simple questions to find out which outcomes they care about most.
mm,
And the reason is somebody could sit in the red quadrant of the disc profile and be 90% red, really strong in all those characteristics, but their current life and financial circumstances puts them in a very different place.
hmm
So in their life, they might be really risk averse. They might be big, brash, out there, confident, but they've just taken a massive hit on their 401k.
Yeah.
And so they're incredibly shy about risk. And as a loan officer, you don't know that without the conversation. Now,
Mm,
here's how you find the middle ground. We don't have time, and some people aren't good at or aren't comfortable sort of really getting to know the client.
mm,
And so quite often the buyer doesn't want to share their life story. They just want the mortgage. So in
sure.
those cases, we can ask a few questions about the outcomes. So Andy, if it was you and I sat across from each other, I might say, hey, we're going to talk about money for the house, but money isn't always the most important thing or the only thing that affects a decision. So thinking about your buying process, you know, which of these are important motivators for you? Is it financial? Is it risk? Is it the speed of this process? Do you want something that's just really easy and hands off for you? What are the things that would be a really positive outcome for you in this process?
Mm,
And that will prompt them to give you some of those specifics where someone might say, yeah,
hmm
the money's obviously important, but I have to close on this date because, or I want to sell or complete. If complete is the word we use in England, so you complete on a certain day. All of that stuff will come out and it can be got to pretty quickly if you ask questions about the kind of outcomes that the buyer is interested in
That's
from
so
your
good.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how that takes like the known off the table, right? The easy response about the money and all that piece, it just takes it off the table, and we go deeper to find, hey, what's your secondary or thirdary kind of
Mm,
motivating factor behind this? So I love the way that question's framed. That's awesome.
Yeah. And
yeah.
it gets to the heart of it. It's there's always going to be something hidden. None of us lay bare everything out
Right.
there. And so surprises will still happen, but there's a secondary benefit from this, which is you'll start to get the words that the client uses to describe things.
Mm.
So being able to pick up on what are the words they're using and reflect those back. So if the client says, the deal done day, and you want to say close, for a little while you could say, on the close, that deal done day, that's the moment these things will happen. So you can use the language which makes things more relatable for that client.
That's so good, man. That's an element of NLP. I'm sure you're familiar with neuro linguistics programming, but mirroring and pacing, that idea of finding those words that they're using, using them back so that it solidifies a comfort level. One of the things that's come up a lot for me, I used to manage an office years ago of 100 realtors, and you would start to hear these real estate agent stories, and one that was very common was the buyer putting themselves in the home for the holidays. They could picture themselves with the fireplace going and the stockings hung and the tree up and the kids sitting around.
Yeah.
So to play that back, like, man, I know this is painful, and I'm telling you, it's not going to be easy. We're going to have multiple offers, but I also recognize you've told me how important it is to be in those two easy chairs on either side of the fireplace with all of those homemade decorations by the kids on the trees. We want to make sure that we can deliver that moment for you. To be able to
Yes.
connect in that way with a story, which I know is your third point. So that's just one that comes to my mind, having been an old, salty, gray-haired coach for a long time. Tell us a bit more about the value of stories from your perspective.
Well, yeah, let's use that story. And this what I'm about to share, it doesn't come up often, but it works very nicely in this situation where somebody wants to get in for the holidays and their loan is slowed down because they have to go back through we need another set of bank statements, another set
Mm,
of bank statements. And there's going to come a point where the buyer needs to make a decision. And decisions about mortgages are difficult because there's so much to consider. There's so many different
hmm.
data points, so many moving parts. And as soon as you try and compare two things and there's 50 different parts of them, that's difficult. And then if
Yeah.
you're looking at seven loan options, then that's even worse. Sean, who's my mortgage guy, he said I was the worst customer. Oh no, I was the easiest customer. Sorry, I didn't say I was the worst. Thanks, Sean. He said
It was one
I
or the other. Yeah.
one or the other. He said I was the easiest because there was only one option for us. I'm here on a particular visa type, which meant there was only one type of loan
Got
I could
it.
get. And he said that was easy. This is your option. He said the worst kind are the people who could have any mortgage because then
Mm,
then they've got to choose between seven or more
so good.
different things. And that is difficult. Humans find it difficult to do that. So here's the connection to stories. If there are seven options, and you use that story to say, hey, we've got a lot of possibilities, but if in your mind you are sitting by the fire with the stockings out on Christmas morning, if that's what you want, only three of these options are going to get you there.
Nice.
So if that's the most important thing, we'll talk about these three. If some other variable, let's say having a slight 2 percentage points
Mm,
lower on the down payment
sure.
is your option, then that Christmas morning goes away, but we can get you those 2 points.
Yep.
So the story helps narrow the options and helps them think about that decision without just looking at pages of
So
numbers.
good.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like Chris, as I listen to you, I feel like the other thing, I mean, first of all, one of the things that hits me is we need to be doing more of this with you. So let's look for the whatever that next opportunity is. But one of the things that occurs to me is you have exhibited an excellent ability to listen in this interview. And what I know is, Andy, not all loan officers are great listeners.
I'm
It's
sorry, what'd
just
you say?
I'll text you later, but it's not, I guess it's just not innate in most of us. We talk very freely. We're welcome. We feel like we're welcome to just educate indiscriminately on the things that are important to us. You have demonstrated a wonderful ability to listen, and I wonder if you've spent any time in this book or others on that particular subject.
I have not actually, not in any of my books. It's one of the things
Mm,
that I said to some of my early clients when I was brought in to teach communication, which is a very
yeah, yeah.
broad topic. I said I won't teach active listening, I won't teach body language, but I can tell you the best people in the world who can teach you those things. So
Nice.
if anyone's interested, I can provide some names and some links to those afterwards. But
Appreciate that.
the value of listening, I have a question back at you. I have a hypothesis.
Mm.
Are there particular groups or types of agents who you believe struggle most with not listening. And rather than putting you on the spot, I'm going to say my hypothesis is people who are in a very process-driven office where everything has to be fully process-based, so they are just running through the process,
Hmm.
and new or early career
For
maybe.
sure. Yeah, for sure. I think both are true. And sadly, I would also say just ineffective, right? Like they may not be new, they may not be in a process-oriented situation, but they're just not very effective, right? And but they may miss that might be one of the connection points. Perhaps if I was a better listener, it's been said I would love to attribute it to the correct individual, but prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. It might be Tony Alessandra who wrote Non-Manipulative Selling. I'm not sure. Do you know? You've heard that before?
I've it's ringing a bell, but I it sounds new enough that I want to write that down. So
Yeah.
say it again.
So
Give that quote
prescription
again.
before diagnosis is malpractice. So if I go to the doctor's office and they
Yeah.
say, well, Mr. Hart, we think you need a stent in your right coronary artery. And I'm like, well, hang on, we haven't done any tests here. Like, but maybe we should
Yeah.
talk about this a little bit more
Yeah.
before we shove something up through my vein into my heart or artery.
Ah,
Um,
it's an expert problem. That is an
right?
expert problem. It comes it was something I had to be very careful to avoid. So I train I have a bunch of workshops, you almost like a menu you could pick from. And someone will come to me and say, "Hey, can you do some training for us?"
Mm,
It's very easy for me to say, "Oh yeah, here's I'll do this training for you," which is the worst possible thing for them because I haven't spent any time working out what the problem
for
is.
sure.
And what's the old adage? If the only tool you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Totally.
And that's what we do. We sit in our expertise. We have a view of the world based on that, which is understandable. It's the
So
world
good.
we live in and operate in, and our income comes from it, and it's our specialty. But we have to be able to step out and away from that and actually try and work out what some of these problems are. What is the true root cause of the problem?
That's so good, man. So Andy, I feel like the maybe the one thing we actually haven't landed on is the title. And I would love to just hop into that first 60 seconds. And maybe Chris, you would say, well, no, that's actually the words and the relevance and the storytelling. But I feel like you've probably got something for that initial minute to your point, and I think you told us before we hit record, it could even be the first 15 to 20 seconds.
Yes.
So
Oh, are
am
you
I
asking
right
for the
or am I
title of the
wrong that
book?
there's a different direction to go there?
Are
He's
you,
asking about the title of the first minute and going from that, not the new book, but the book that's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so that book is called The First Minute,
Yeah.
and it's how to start conversations that get results. And so for a loan officer, everybody should read The First Minute. And it's not just because I want to sell a lot of books. I already have. Selling more would be nice, but the reason this is good for everybody is The First Minute starts transactional work conversations. It's
Mm,
not how do you get a client in the door. It's
mm,
not the very first discussion with a potential buyer,
yeah.
but it is for the fourth meeting when you're asking the buyer to get on the phone with you. Well, they want to know why. What are we going to talk about? How is this relevant to me? What do you want me to do with this? What is your key
Mm,
point? What is the headline? That's what people need before they start the conversation. It's what they need
you
in the
bet.
first few seconds so that they focus. And if you've got a loan officer who's escalating something internally, that becomes a transactional piece. Maybe
Hmm.
they're going back to underwriting. Well, in that case, the person in underwriting has no idea why the loan officer is contacting them beyond
Sure.
there's a problem. So in the first minute, there's a couple of frameworks that really make it clear what are we going to talk about, why are we talking about it, and what is the headline, so that everybody's ready to have that conversation
Excellent.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Love
Love
it.
that, man. Well, clearly we are believers and we want to make sure that everybody on this call finds that book. I'm assuming this is wherever books are sold.
Wherever
Amazon,
books are
Barnes and
sold.
Noble.
Yep.
Can they also find your original book? I mean, I love this story. The first book you wrote had nothing to do with communication.
I wondered if this would come up. That is still available to buy. So 15 years ago, oh no, probably even more than that now. I've forgotten how old I am. 20 something years ago, I wrote a book on small ball rifle shooting. And the first book I ever wrote was about small ball rifle shooting. And then it has nothing to do with my business, but it enabled me to write my business books more
Got you
effectively.
started.
It did. It really did.
And the
I love that.
genesis of that story too, right? I mean, what prompted you to write that book originally?
So I used to do competitive rifle shooting, sort of the Olympic style. So not hunting, but making holes in bits of paper, 50 and 100 yards. And
Wow.
I would compete. I was in the England squad, and I was able to. I was coaching, and there wasn't any good material. So I was forever grabbing an old target and drawing a picture on the back and trying to give something to the people I was working with.
Mm,
And I said, well, if there isn't a book out there, I might as well write one. And
mm.
that was the germ of the idea.
Wow.
And I got a series of very lucky things happen after that. And about 3 or 4 weeks later, I had a book contract with a traditional publisher.
It's fantastic.
And yeah, I was incredibly lucky, but I followed the right steps and I had the expertise to have the credibility in
That
it.
is so cool. Okay, so
Um,
then you got to give us a nugget here about shooting. I mean, my mind goes to aim small, miss small, which also applies to my world in golf. But I also know that people pull triggers too fast and they don't identify dominant eyes. Like, give
Yep.
us a nugget for shooting that might apply somewhere else in life.
So here's the thing that is universally applicable. Wow, words. We should get a communications guy in for this. Seemingly irrelevant things make a big difference.
Wow.
And there are so many examples in shooting. And I'm going to give it one from the recent Olympics.
Mm.
So did you hear anything about the Turkish pistol shooter in the Olympics who was wearing flip-flops and had his hand in his pocket and looked
oh
like
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
all the memes were about him.
Right.
And everyone was saying he'd retired, he just came back, he didn't care.
Yeah.
Here's what you don't realize. Everything he did was intentional and brilliant. So when you shoot, the people who were wearing all the kit were wearing special shoes with really rigid soles that
Mm.
extend out beyond the feet so that they could stand on a really
Stability.
stable platform.
Sure.
He was wearing flip-flops. But here's why that's brilliant. If you stand wearing flip-flops, you can feel exactly where your pressure is on your toes and your heel.
Interesting.
The second thing was the hand in the pocket. And it was, it's just casual. After we've done this, because it doesn't work very well on air, but I
Mm.
challenge anybody to stand up wearing a pair of pants, put your left hand in the pocket, all the way down into the pocket, and then very slightly rock forwards and backwards, and you'll feel the pressure of your pocket on your hand
Oh my goodness.
change. And you will begin, if you did that often enough, you'd know if you were leaning too far forwards, to the side, to the back,
That's
because there's a pressure point
amazing.
on the hand.
That's amazing.
Tiny things make an outside difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Wow. We didn't tee you up for that. So that's an excellent example of a story you had in your back pocket at the right moment. Well played.
Which
Well,
kind of
Thank you.
brings us right back into the communication side of things because stories are important and details matter, right? As you're
for
looking
sure.
at it, the details of the conversation. We talked about how words matter. We talked about how the details of being relevant matter. And we talked about having a relatable story really matters in that entire piece. So it
You
all
bet.
ties together.
You bet. Well, I'm just gonna say, Chris, it's such an honor and a pleasure to meet you, and particularly at the time that we record this 2 days before Independence Day, 250 years ago, we were a bunch of traitors as far as your ancestors were concerned, and possibly some of ours. So exciting to meet you, though. Love your topic. Love just the free flow here. This is today. I want to remind people, this is great content for you to share with your realtors. So listen to this, listen to it again. I'm going to recommend you buy a case of books. As an author myself, I'm happy to make that recommendation to people because I believe it with all my heart. If it's a book that you believe in, buy a case, get those books out to the realtors that you're either working with now or would like to target. This is completely applicable to their world. Believe me, you have a lot of real estate agents that are not good at these things that we just talked about. So that would be my recommendation. Andy, how do you want to wrap this up with Chris?
Yeah, I love that. I think the last piece is, Chris, if people wanted to do a little more research on your materials, your books, find out what's out there. I know we said where books are published. Do you have a website? Do you have a place you'd like to direct them to in particular that you want to share?
Yes, my website is my name, so it's chrisfenning.com, and LinkedIn is my social hangout. And I chat if anyone has a question on anything that we've talked about today, ask it on LinkedIn. I reply to absolutely
Cool.
everyone.
Love
Perfect. Well,
that.
I will throw those links into the show notes so you guys can jump on and take Chris up on that if you got some questions. Chris, it's been an honor and a privilege, man. Thanks for being willing to jump on the call with us and have this conversation. I know you added some great value to folks.
Andy,
Yeah,
Bill, this has been great. Thank you very much
it
for
is,
having me.
buddy. And I was just going to say, I have now watched enough BritBox that I think I now realize cheers is not just something you say when you toast. Cheers is something you say that means thank you.
It
So
does.
cheers.
You're welcome.
It's a great time, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I know that didn't disappoint. That was a fun call. Great to talk to him.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I think those three areas for each one of us, I don't know about you, but I was processing it as a coach. Words, relevance, and stories. It is just such a brilliant structure and kind of litmus test as we're communicating. I think every one of us, anyone who watches this or listens to this, maybe watch it and listen to it again through that lens of, hang on, are there words, is there jargon that I'm using with people that don't understand that industry specific language where I'm confusing them? Is that possible? Where they're getting hung up, like as Chris pointed out. Number two, have I made it relevant to them? Do I know enough about them to make it relevant to them? And then do I have some stories in my back pocket that I can share? Yeah, I just thought that was a great structure.
Yeah, I love that too, right? And I think too that the thing that I hear people getting hung up on the most is stories, right?
Yeah,
Don't overthink the stories. Remember, authenticity matters. Come from a place of genuine authenticity with the stories that you have and just share the experiences that you've gone through because I
yeah,
promise you they're relatable to other people.
yeah. That's a great point, bud.
Yeah.
Well, this was a good one. We're excited to line up a few more for you coming up here soon. What should they do, man? Like,
Yeah.
subscribe? What do you think?
Like, subscribe, share, make sure you get the word out. You help us by letting other people know about what's going on. So get this out to other folks. And as always, if you need any help, if we can do anything for you, please reach out to us at getcoaching@movement.com.
Yeah, we really mean it. Anything, if something hit you here today and you want to work through it with a coach, just hit us up, man. We'd love to hop on a call with you. We are here to serve you.
See you guys on the next one.
Thanks, partner.